Hi, this is Erin Fall-Haskell with Dr. Alexander, ND, naturopath, and we are discussing the overview of detoxification, why it's important, what is going on with the body as far as losing weight, vitality, all of our mental clarity, getting to where our body has its natural resource of healing and its natural inherent healer inside. And Dr. Alexander is going to give us kind of the overview of that and what the modalities are of detoxification, all the different ways of detoxifying, and the sources of all the toxins and what that is. So give us a little bit of an overview and your viewpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that probably the most important point that you just made is this inner wisdom, this inner physician that we all possess. And if we respect that wisdom, if we sort of nurture and try to eliminate waste and toxins from the body, then that wisdom can do a much more effective and efficient job of maintaining our health. So the idea behind the purification program, in part, is assisting this wisdom or assisting the body to help remove and excrete toxins and residues that we've been accumulating pretty much from the day of our conception, that whole period of time in the womb. Even then we're being exposed to environmental toxins from our mother. So, and if we can somehow trigger and support this wisdom by eliminating toxins, that's a major part of the program.
It's great. I love the story about how you had tons of clients that were coming in with all different symptoms, and some had disease, some were just coming in for preventative medicine type of work. But you found what I loved about what was going on and why I feel so lucky to have this conversation, bringing this conversation of your wisdom to the world, because what Dr. Alexander Haskell, who's my father, found is that each client that came in, no matter what was really going on for them, majority of all of them, he felt like they would benefit from a detoxification, because then the body at least would be able to free up. Instead of coping, it would come to a place where it was able to do what it was able to do before he started looking at different supplements or what else was going on with the body. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And if we go back in the history of, now we call it alternative medicine, but it was part of the medical kind of milieu, hundreds or 100 and 200 years ago, which was fasting. I mean, lots of medical doctors and, lay people, that was their primary therapy, because they realized that when you put a person through a detoxification program, let's say, for instance, a water fast, but we don't have to do that, but there's other ways of fasting or helping the body to cleanse, people would go through a healing crisis. And that healing crisis is when the vitality in the body starts to increase. And a lot of people think, oh my God, how could I survive just drinking water? Or how can I do it just, taking juices? But what happens is, and this is true for everyone, when you don't have to digest food and deal with all of the the production of enzymes and assimilation and delivery of all these nutrients to the body, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to do that. If you stop that process, the body is unburdened and the vitality starts to increase to a point where the vibration of the body is at such a height, it will then feel strong enough and capable enough to start excreting stored toxins. So you go through the healing crisis. They feel sick. They might be vomiting. Skin rashes come out. All the ways the body is able to excrete toxins. That healing crisis passes, and now they're reset. The thermostat is reset for a new level of vitality just by excreting those toxins. This goes way back in the history of medicine.
Yeah, we're so toxic. I mean, our environment, our food, our pesticides, everything. I mean, cars, toxins, fluoride in the water. We've got so many toxins. And so from what I've learned from you and from doing so much research on this, is that our fat actually stores the toxins. It's almost like it's a coping mechanism, and a very efficient one at that. And but it's also hoping that I would imagine the body's kind of like, okay, I'm ready for the detox now. Can you please, take that on for me so I don't have to hold all this burden going on. Is that correct? What exactly goes on with the fat, and why is it stored? Why is toxin stored in the fat?
Yeah, so most toxins are sort of categorized as what are called lipophilic, meaning they love fat. They have an affinity for fat. So the issue primarily is when people's triglycerides, which is a form of fat, starts to increase from certain dietary habits, especially glucose, which is really partly, I should say sucrose, which is partly glucose, and also fructose. Fructose is turned into triglycerides. And if that is not turned into energy, then those triglycerides are shunted into fat cells. So these toxins, loving fat, they bind onto that triglyceride and they're carried into fat cells and stored there. So that's kind of the mechanism of how we start to store these toxins that the body is not able to either completely metabolize or the systems of excretion compromised.
Okay, great. So as far as chemistry-wise, it's a little overwhelming maybe for some people out there. They're like, I don't even understand what he's talking about. But I get that it's important, right, because it's important for people to get educated. And sometimes it might be a little bit out there as far as conversation or the words used, but, you know, the more you kind of stay in the conversation around detoxification, the more you're going to start to understand and just, you know, so there's many toxins that we have in our environment. And then tell me about the different modalities, in your opinion, what the best ways of detoxifying are.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, first of all, it is to try to avoid being exposed to toxins. So there's a few different pathways that the body tries to break down these toxins as they come through the system. One is through the internal pathways, such as liver metabolism, breaking the toxins down in several different ways. Those which are more fat-soluble then go throughout the liver into the gallbladder. The gallbladder tries to convert these fatty, sort of fatty-bound toxins into more water-soluble, so it's much easier to excrete. And then the toxins come out the gallbladder into the intestines, and of course they're eliminated through the stool. That's one pathway. The body also would appreciate getting toxins out through the skin because most of those toxins are stored in the fat. So just under the skin is the subdermal fat layer. And if we can get those toxins out through the skin, then the body doesn't have to deal with all that internal metabolism of the toxins. So two primary pathways. Internal pathways, the liver, gallbladder, colon. External pathway is through the skin.
Okay, great. So internal, I mean, obviously so sweat, or I would imagine some ways of exercise, obviously a lot of sauna work, which we'll get into. But as far as the other way, as far as excreting, tell us about the different herbs or a fasting, or what would be all the different pathways of excreting just through natural, so other than sweating through the skin.
Yeah. So the pathways through the liver, there's like two primary phases of detoxification through the liver, and there's different nutrients required in each of those pathways, such as B vitamins and B12 and folic acid. There's some herbs which help liver to detoxify. There's dandelion, and some turmeric is useful. But there's one nutrient which the body makes, but usually becomes depleted because of our exposure to toxins. One nutrient, an antioxidant, which is in both pathways, and that's the one that's used the most, and that is glutathione. So we do that intravenously, but you can also take an oral glutathione. There's a few really good products on the market. Most of them don't do all that well, but there's a few good ones on the market for glutathione. And then the gallbladder, sometimes people's gallbladder becomes so full of junk that it cannot accept any more waste or waste coming down to the liver. So you've got to do a little bit of a gallbladder cleanse in a category of botanicals called chola-gaz, which simply means to help the gallbladder to push toxins out. And the best one is artichoke leaf, one of the best, been around for hundreds of years, used by physicians for many years before this. And then the colon, it's really important to work on the colon to change the gut ecology so that those toxins coming out of the gallbladder into the intestine not reabsorbed into the body. So having good motility of the intestinal tract is also very important.
Yeah, I mean, we have a whole other conversation around that as far as being able to actually take in nutrients and excrete things. unique for each individual, for sure. But just to get an overview of it, I think it's a good overview. So just to go back again, detoxifying is actually, in historically has been a very natural, cyclical thing that most cultures have done, annually and even quarterly. And as we know, United States is, we are becoming a very, very obese country. It's an epidemic. It went from, I think, 1 in 8 back in the 1980s, and now we're 1 in 3 in America. So, and then beyond, non-obese people, we've got vitality issues, just that chronic fatigue and foggy brain, and just everyone wants to be their optimum self, and so it's just for everybody. I can't think of anybody that wouldn't benefit from it. Obviously, people need to ensure that they're ready for it, to go to their own doctor or whatever that is, to make sure that they're physically, not up to too many other challenges that would, maybe if they're not detoxing, maybe need to go very slow for some people. But then the modalities, of course, sauna is big. Some people hate sauna, but, sometimes you just start with a very modifying diet and then going to some fasting, juicing, whatever that is. But we're going to do, talk more about these different modalities and stuff. I just want to get an overview with you. And just reiterate again that every client that came to Dr. Alexander Haskell, he really felt that probably majority of all of them would highly benefit from detoxifying, having a detoxification program before even doing other work and looking at all the different nutrition and what's really going on beyond that, because we have this innate, physician inside, he says, and it's really brilliant. I love when you say that. And so thank you so much. Anything before we end this conversation?
I don't think so. I think it's one thing I try to help people be more perceptive about is that this inner wisdom, this inner physician, speaks to us partly in symptoms to let us know something's out of balance, but it also speaks to us through intuition and insights. And a lot of times what happens is when people go through this purification program and they're feeling more vital, they're much more in tune with their intuition as far as their lifestyle, or realizing that this is not a good thing to be doing in their lifestyle habits, or this is the food I should be eating more of. Bringing those instincts to the surface, and people living more by their own calling, being their own physician.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, it all does come from spirit, and it's spirit, mind, body, not body, mind, spirit. It really should be swapped, and so the body is the best communicator for the spirit of what's going on, and this is a great way to reconnect to source and get in alignment with all three as one, because there is no non-duality. We're definitely, that is our truth, but anyway. So thank you so much for your time and lovely conversation. Look forward to many more.